In a city of giants, one structure rises so impossibly thin it shouldn't stand at all. Built as a monument to extreme luxury, today it stands in near darkness. An audacious tower filled with empty condos that nobody lives in. This is the story of the Steinway Tower, 111 West 57th Street, the engineering marvel and billionaire's dream that became a ghostly reminder of ambition pushed too far. New York is a city defined by ambition. When you can't build outward, you build upward. Higher, thinner, stranger, and more extreme. The race for height and exclusivity drove developers to attempt things that looked impossible. And nothing captures that more than the Steinway Tower, a building that redefined the limits of engineering and the limits of common sense. New York has more than 7,000 high-rise buildings, and over 100 of them rise above 650 feet tall. The skyline is a crowded forest of architectural styles, from classic Art Deco towers to today's ultra-thin residential needles along Billionaire's Row. Yet, even among all these giants, one tower demands your attention. Engineers once joked that it looked less like a skyscraper and more like a bookmark jammed into Manhattan. This is the Steinway Tower, the thinnest skyscraper ever built in the world, with a height-to-width ratio of 1:24. It rises 1,428 feet into the air while standing on a footprint barely wider than a townhouse. For every foot of width, the tower climbs 24 feet straight up. So narrow that if you stood at the base and stretched out your arms, you could almost touch both sides. So how did this super tall residential tower, designed to be one of the crown jewels of Billionaire's Row, end up nearly empty? And how did a project meant to symbolize success become a billion-dollar ghost tower? The story begins long before the tower ever existed. It begins with Steinway & Sons, the legendary piano maker founded in 1853. Their 1929 headquarters, Steinway Hall, was a Beaux Arts masterpiece with a soaring rotunda and a performance hall where musicians tested pianos before performing at Carnegie Hall just a block away. But by the 2000s, Midtown had transformed. 57th Street became Billionaire's Row, one of the most valuable strips of land on the planet. The old Steinway Hall remained iconic, but the land beneath it had become far more valuable than the piano business occupying it. By 2013, Steinway made the difficult decision to sell the property. The buyers, JDS Development Group, PMG, and Arthur P. Becker, didn't just acquire a landmark. They acquired the air rights that made a super tall skyscraper possible. Combined with several adjoining parcels they purchased, they could now attempt the impossible, a super skinny tower on a plot of land the size of a townhouse. Developers filed permits for a 1,200-foot tower in 2013, later increased to 1,428 feet. The new structure would rise above a restored Steinway Hall, blending a protected 1920s landmark with an ultra-luxury 84-story pencil tower soaring above it. Construction began in 2014, using the tallest freestanding crane ever deployed in New York City. Engineering this tower wasn't just ambitious, it was unprecedented. No Western skyscraper this thin had ever been attempted at this height. Challenges surfaced immediately. Costs ballooned by tens of millions of dollars. Excavating around the landmark Steinway Hall slowed progress dramatically. Investor disputes erupted, including a series of lawsuits from Ambase Corporation. The project faced a major loan default in 2017, and construction temporarily stalled. And beyond the financial turmoil, the engineering itself pushed the extreme limits of skyscraper design. At over 1,400 feet tall and only about 60 feet wide, the building behaved like a vertical sail. To keep it stable, engineers created an extraordinarily thick reinforced concrete core, used some of the strongest concrete ever poured in New York City, added outriggers and shear walls to resist lateral forces, inserted wind-venting mechanical floors, and installed two massive tuned mass dampers at the top to counteract sway. For the foundation, engineers drilled deep into the Manhattan schist below. transferring tens of thousands of tons into bedrock while balancing it on a tiny footprint. Construction wasn't just difficult, it was dangerous. Several incidents drew headline attention, including glass panels falling from upper floors, terracotta pieces dropping onto the street, and scaffold failures that forced shutdowns along West 57th Street. Then came the COVID shutdown in 2020, slowing work even further and freezing the luxury real estate market entirely. Despite everything, the tower rose. It passed through the halfway point by 2018, topped out by 2019, and completed construction in 2022. The engineering triumph was undeniable, but the commercial reality was far different. When Steinway Tower finally opened, it should have been a celebration. Instead, it opened to silence. Many units remained unsold. The company's occupancy stayed shockingly low. Night after night, most of its windows stayed dark. The question was simple: what went wrong? The ultra-luxury condo market had collapsed. From 2013 to 2015, developers believed billionaire buyers would absorb anything put on the market. But by the time Steinway Tower opened, demand had nearly evaporated. Foreign investment slowed. Tax laws changed, and the pandemic froze international wealth flow. Inventory across Billionaire's Row skyrocketed, and demand couldn't keep up. Another problem was that the tower became too exclusive for its own good. Billionaires might enjoy privacy, but they don't enjoy emptiness. Many prefer full-color units with 360-degree views, not narrow layouts with limited exposure. And then came the media coverage. Stories about elevator shutdowns during wind events, tales of building sway, and reminders of the construction incidents all created a narrative that wealthy buyers didn't want to be a part of. Even if the engineering was solid, the public perception was not. By the time the tower opened, asking prices were also out of sync with reality. Early projections targeted $7,000 to $10,000 per square foot and even hinted at units topping $100 million. But the market no longer supported numbers like that. The tower quickly became a strange paradox: architecturally admired, engineered brilliantly, and yet economically unsuccessful. In the end, Steinway Tower isn't just a skyscraper. It's a reminder that engineering can push the limits of physics, but it cannot bend the limits of the market. Ambition built it, luxury defined it, but isolation ultimately shaped its legacy. Somewhere between visionary design and failed real estate economics lies the true story of the Steinway Tower.